Good morning, friends and enemies. In today's video, we will be going through every single fantasy relevant wide receiver for week 7, and I will be giving you my humble ass opinion on whether or not you should start them, you should sit them, or you should flex them. We do this every single Thursday, and we do the running back version of this video every single Wednesday. So if you enjoy either of them, you want to go check out yesterday's, it's on the channel. Subscribe to this channel if you're new and want to continue watching these. All right, we've got a long list of wide receivers to get through today, so let's jump into Thursday Night Football. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Pittsburgh in Cincinnati. The Bengals 5.5-point underdogs at home, 44.5-point total with Joe Flacco coming in. We saw the first start with him. Jamar Chase had a boom game. T. Higgins now has a floor as well, which it's giving you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel if you've been holding on to T. Higgins thus far. Jamar Chase's numbers are crazy this week. 75.5 receiving yards, 7.5 receptions. So the big dogs out in Vegas are optimistic about what tonight is going to give this Cincinnati offense here, at least from a passing perspective. Now, the injuries that you do need to know about: Trey Hendrickson is a long shot, which is a huge downgrade to the Bengals defense, which is almost at a point where it cannot be downgraded any further to begin with, which I think is going to end up leading to a lot of running back touches for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know how this offense operates as a whole. On the Pittsburgh side of things, we have Calvin Austin, who is very likely going to be out for this game, which gives a nice little boost to a guy like DK Metcalf, who I'm going to throw right into the feels good category. 62.5 yards. The Bengals defense is just an absolute sieve out here. And then T. Higgins, like I said, I think the best thing about Joe Flacco joining the team is the fact that now T. Higgins feels like he has a floor. He has a realistic floor as a fantasy receiver. His numbers are pretty good in Vegas. 4.5 receptions, 46.5 yards. It's not anything to go over the moon about, but they connect on one deep pass. He gets a goal line target or something like that. Like, I think T. Higgins has the possibility of having a good day. The Steelers defense is getting back to full strength, though. They do have Joey Porter Jr. back. They do have Jalen Ramsey back. Deshaun Elliott, their starting safety, has missed this week of practice with personal reasons. So up in the air, his status for the game would be a minor downgrade to that secondary, but overall still a pretty strong defense. I think we're going to see them continue to get stronger over the course of the year, but pretty cut and dry for this one, I think. Next up, we got the London game. We got Rams versus the Jaguars. The Jaguars are 3-point underdogs in this one, 44.5-point total. Brian Thomas Jr. coming off of his best game of the season last week, of course. I feel pretty good about having him in my lineup. It is still a tough matchup. The Rams, as you could see, a lot of red on the board here. Bottom 3 in terms of overall points allowed to opposing offenses. Bottom 5 in terms of EPA per pass allowed. So I do imagine it's going to be a little bit tough to move the ball through the air, but I do like the connection that we're seeing from T-Law and Brian Thomas Jr. start to blossom quite a bit here, and we're seeing them get a little bit more comfortable with the Liam Cohen offense as a whole. In terms of injuries, it does look like Puka is going to miss this game for show. And then we got Blake Corum with the DNP to start the week on Wednesday, so he's probably trending towards not playing. Devin Lloyd is going to be out for this one with a calf injury. So ultimately, I mean, Devontae Adams, of course, you have to have him in your lineup. When Puka is going to be out, he's going to get a bajillion targets. For Jacksonville, listen, I just think to get any of these guys into your lineup, Travis Hunter, Parker Washington, De'Ami Brown, I think you have to be really, really desperate right now. So they're all rather nots for me. Behind Devontae Adams, we're trying to figure out what happens with Jordan Whittington, what happens with Tutu Atwell. Jordan Whittington had some good games last year, and I think we're probably going to overemphasize that a little bit. I think in my rankings this week, he is my wide receiver 45, which isn't like unstartable, but you do have to be in a pretty desperate state of a team at that point. But there are bye weeks, there are a lot of wide receiver injuries, so I get it. There are a lot of people that are desperate. The Jacksonville defense is very good, as you could see, 27th in EPA per pass allowed. They've been one of the breakout stories of the season, just the Jaguars defense overall, because they've been one of the worst over the last half decade. Jordan Whittington, I think a lot of his production last year came with both Puka and Cooper Kupp banged up as well. So he almost became the primary target. I just imagine Devontae Adams probably sees double-digit targets. And then I think it's a little bit tough to decipher between Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington. Tutu Atwell is expected to be back for this game. He missed last week with a hamstring strain, but McVay came out and said definitely expecting him to be back in the lineup for this one. So I think both of those guys will split snaps. I'm not sure who gets the 2 wide receiver set snaps. I lean towards Tutu Atwell. I do lean towards Jordan Whittington getting more layup targets than a guy like Tutu Atwell, who has probably a higher ceiling. The way I would rank them is I would put Jordan Whittington in the shaky flex. You know, he is someone that you absolutely can flex, but I think there are a lot better options on the table. And Tutu, he's definitely more closer to the rather not. Like, if you want to argue if he's on the top of rather not or the very bottom of shaky flex, I think you can do with that what you want. But I would start Whittington over Tutu Atwell because, again, I think if they start to utilize him more in the slot, if they put him in motion a lot. If he takes over that Puka role, which I think they have pretty identical skill sets in terms of just like what you can do with them in the offense and the way that they play stylistically. Jordan Whittington's a little bit of a fucking animal and a beast out there on the field. I do imagine that he could see some of the targets that Puka gets laid up for him, but I don't want to get overly cute here because at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a pretty tough defensive battle on both sides of the ball. And Davante Adams is going to be the guy that they run the offense through. Moving over to Carolina at the New York Jets. I think the Jets side of things is pretty cut and dry. Garrett Wilson is going to be out. You don't want to start anyone on the Jets side. Josh Reynolds started the week off with the DNP, so there's a chance he doesn't even fucking line up. So God save their souls out there. For Carolina, it does look like Jalen Coker is actually expected to return for this one. Will he be on a limited snap count? I think there's a good chance. Like, this dude has missed 6 weeks up to this point with this injury. So you have to imagine he's close to 100%, but he has to get his wind back, in his lungs. He's got to get conditioning up to speed. I think he'll start off as like a 60% snap guy. And again, playing against the Jets, like, it's a very good matchup, obviously. As you could see, number 3 in EPA per pass allowed to opponents. We just know the Jets are not a good team. But listen, last week, Sauce Gardner shadowed Cortland Sutton, shut him down. The week before that, shadowed George Pickens. He had the one long pass. Otherwise, he would have shut him down as well. I think Sauce is still a very good cornerback, and I think this is the type of matchup where Sauce sticks on Tetairoa McMillan for the entirety of the game. And as you can see, I think Vegas is expecting that as well. Like, his line, I think, normally would have been 65, 5.5 receptions, but they're a little bit more down on him as well. I'm going to throw him into the feels good category. We did finally see him get a couple touchdowns last week, but overall, I wouldn't be totally surprised if he had an underwhelming game here. Jalen Coker, I think, has to go into the bottom of the shaky flex category, and then I'm not touching anybody else in these games. Las Vegas at Kansas City. So we've got the return of Rashee fucking Rice. For those of y'all that held him, hallelujah, happy Christmas, Merry Kwanzaa, all that good stuff. Life just became good again. I mean, I don't know how high is too high to rank Rashee Rice this week, but he's going right into my must-start category. This is not a guy that's coming off of a high ankle sprain or coming off of a hamstring strain. He is going to be fully healthy. Guys coming off of suspension, I have no worries about their play time, their play style, whether or not they can be at 100%. Rashee Rice, this 56.5 receiving yard line is way too low for me. That's going to be the first slip that I absolutely pepper this week. So if you're interested in seeing what I get that at, as well as the other lines that I take, whatever parlays I put together, just individual slips and spreads and all that kind of stuff, you could always track me. Been talking about this all year on the Pickett app. Free to download, free to follow me, free to join, all that good stuff. The Pickett app is like a social betting platform, so you could follow me, your favorite creators, the other BDGE guys. You could follow your friends if you get them on the app as well. You could sync your books on there. So if you're placing bets across different books, they will basically pull it all into one place. You could track your calendar, see how you're doing week over week, day over day, month over month, and you could do the same as you're looking at my bets and stuff like that. So they have a really cool feature where you could just copy a bet as well. Like, you see, like, oh, Nick took Rashee Rice 56.5. You could literally just do copy and it'll put it into your book for you. Very, very cool. Free to download again. Free to follow me. If you download it and put BDGE in the little code spot when you download the app, that will automatically make you follow us. So Rashee Rice is going to be the first one that I hit. I have absolutely zero hesitations getting him back into my lineup. Jakobi Meyers is an interesting case right now. I like the spot. I still like the player. Historically, over the last 2 years, him against Kansas City, he's been really, really good. However, he missed practice yesterday. The reports of him possibly being traded feel like they're picking up a ton of steam right now. And maybe he returns to practice today, but there does feel like this is a little bit of that Davante Adams situation from last year. Same team, same position, same path right now, where they feel like they're probably going to move off of Jakobi Meyers, and he might not play this week because of that. He might not really be injured. He might be at 96% or something like that, but they might hold him out because of the trade speculation, which puts us in a weird spot. So ultimately, where I think this plays out, if Jakobi Meyers plays, he ends up being fine, whatever. Brock Bowers is going to be out again, which is a boost to all the pass catchers in Las Vegas. It makes Michael Mayer another really good tight end streamer. Jakobi Meyers, if he plays, is going to be in the dub flex category for me. The other guys are going to be, Trey Tucker would be a shaky flex category for me. I don't know that I see a ton of consistency coming out of him. If Jakobi Meyers does not play, Trey Tucker moves into the dub flex category for me. Jack Besh is the other name to keep an eye on. He has now completely supplanted Deontay Thornton, the other rookie. Jack Besh was a day 2 pick by the Raiders that just could not beat out Thornton for whatever reason throughout the summer. but now he is running the majority of the routes. He was basically picked, I think, as the next Jacoby Myers. Very similar skill set, very strong possession receivers. He's running the routes. I think Jack Bech is one of the sharpest pickups right now to stash in fantasy football, because if these trade rumors, if the steam behind Myers come to fruition and he's gone, they've got really nothing there besides Bowers and these young guys that they're going to give a ton of chances to. And Geno, as poorly as he's playing, is still a guy that slings the ball. And when he latches on to a number one receiver, they got a ton of targets. And I feel decent about Jack Bech being that guy. I think he could be a really strong second half of the year rookie breakout guy. So Jack Bech, 10 team leagues, I probably don't care about, but 12, 14, 16, if you got guys sitting on the end of your bench, you got like a second tight end that like you don't really care about, whatever. Jack Bech is a dude that I would grab right now, because if Jacoby Myers misses, he's going to run every single route. He has one good game. He's going to be the top of the waiver wire list for everybody. So I'm not necessarily looking to get him into my lineup. I'll throw him into the rather not category for now, but I just needed to get that take off my chest. Xavier Worthy, with Rashee Rice returning, I feel way worse about it. I feel way worse about every other pass catcher. It's Rashee Rice's world, and the rest of them are just living in it. We don't have a ton of sample size with Worthy and Rice together. Anything that we do is Rice alphaing everybody else in the offense. So Worthy definitely still playable. I would put him into the dub flex category, because at this point they've had so much practice time where it's just Worthy kind of operating as the alpha that they have a ton of plays drawn up for him. Like, they will still keep him extremely involved, but there's a world where Rashee Rice gets 12 targets. Everybody else is kind of like fighting for 4 to 5 targets outside of that. So if they don't connect on a deep pass or something like that, could be very underwhelming. So I'll throw Xavier Worthy into the dub flex, Hollywood Brown into the shaky flex, and I'm not starting anybody else in Kansas City. Moving to Miami at Cleveland. Miami 2.5-point underdogs in Cleveland. Cleveland much stronger against the run, can definitely be beat through the air. Jalen Waddle, like I've said, Jalen Waddle without Tyreek Hill is basically just getting all of Tyreek Hill's work. Big game after big game after big game. Nobody else in that Miami offense I want to start outside of Darren Waller, of course. On the flip side, Jerry Jeudy's been wildly disappointing, but I mean, in this type of matchup where they're playing against the Miami secondary, who is just so bad, I do want to get someone from this group in my lineup. The other thing to note too is that David Njoku started the week off with a DNP on Wednesday with his knee injury. Doesn't guarantee him being out, but if he is out, that is a major, major boost to both Jerry Jeudy and Harold Fannin especially. Harold Fannin is going to be ranked, I believe, in my rankings that are live right now on the site, BDGE.co. If you're a Big Dog member, you can get them. He is like the number 8 tight end on the week for me. I just think when you consolidate the tight end position in Cleveland, it ends up being a shitload of targets. So Fannon's going to be ranked really high. All these guys get a boost if David Njoku is out. So Jeudy, yes, he's been extremely disappointing, but if Njoku's out, he's going to be a dub flex for me because the matchup just cannot get any better than that. Isaiah Bond, yes, he's been very, very disappointing. But again, matchup, if Njoku's out, I think he's worthy of being in the shaky flex category. Moving to New England at Tennessee. So we have a 7-point spread here. The favorites are New England, of course, 42.5-point total. Tennessee is a terrible defense. Let's check the practice reports if there's anything to keep an eye on here. A lot of banged up players on the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee. As you can see here, we've got L'Jarius Sneed, we've got Harold Landry, Arden Key, a bunch of players. The only one that really, really stands out to us for Tennessee, though, is Calvin Ridley. He is going to miss this game with a hamstring strain. Stephon Diggs, I think, will bounce back and be fine, so he's going to be a dub flex for me. I feel really good if he's sitting in my flex spot. I know they've kind of gone back and forth between who's having big games, who's not having big games. Diggs got another really big play called back last week that would have put him into like a wide receiver 3-2 territory. But ultimately, Drake May's playing lights out. This is a great matchup, so don't want to overthink that one. I think Alec Ayumaner, the rookie who started the year off really strong, Calvin Ridley being out now, targets have to go somewhere. I think it'll probably be spread around between Ayumaner and like Van Jefferson and Chiggy, and none of them feel great, but I'll put Ayumaner into the shaky flex category. I think you could do worse. Butte is going to be a really hot name coming off of the massive week that he had last week. But as we can see all year, he's been really, really inconsistent. And he has a very, very low weekly floor. So I'd much rather look elsewhere. He's going to go into the shaky flex category. I think all the Patriots pass catchers are kind of like a shiny object this week because the matchup is so good. But ultimately, I mean, the other guys would be like a Demario Douglas is in the rather not tier. Van Jefferson is in the rather not tier. And we wouldn't touch anybody else in that game. New Orleans at Chicago. Chicago 4.5-point favorites, 46.5-point total here. Rome for shows going right into the must start. I know he kind of disappointed last week, but had a bunch of bullshit calls go against him and would have had a much bigger day. He's still a top 10 fantasy wide receiver for me. Definitely Chris Olave on the other side going against the Chicago defense that has allowed a ton of points through the air for the most part. He's pretty much as solid as they come for PPR plays. I still don't really look at him in the like Brian Thomas Jr., Tet, DK Metcalf tier. He's definitely in the dub flex tier for me and very much at the top of it. But I still think more often than not, you're going to get those, just like 5 for 70 games. And that's great for PPR, a nice 11, 12, 13 point floor. But usually he's not catching a 50-yard pass. More often than not, he's not catching a touchdown. So I think he's fine. I think he's good. I think he should definitely be in your lineup. But that's about where we cut the dressing there. After Rome, things get a little bit tricky because we have to decipher what's going on with DJ Moore. He was a DNP on Wednesday. He's dealing with his little ball issue out there. And I don't know if he's going to play or not. If he does play, this is a really good matchup against the Saints. That being said, he's just not very involved in the offense. So to me, he's top of the tier of the shaky flex, but I don't feel good about him having him in my flex. I think Luther Burden is a pretty shaky flex for sure. If DJ Moore is out, I'm still hesitant to put him into the dub flex category because I still think there's a chance that if DJ Moore is out, we get a lot of 2 wide receiver sets and 2 tight end sets with Loveland and Cole Kmet. And Luther Burden could be the odd man out there. Like, I still think Ben Johnson trusts Olamide Zaccheaus for whatever reason. In 3 wide receiver sets, which they might run a decent portion of, Burden will definitely be on the field for those, which is obviously good. And I think if you give a guy like Burden with his playmaking ability 60% of the routes or the snaps, then we feel pretty good about it. I like Burden as a stash more than I do as like an insert play immediately this week. He's like probably my favorite stash on the week, given the fact that like if DJ Moore misses and Burden kind of breaks out, there's a chance that he's the wide receiver 2 on this team for the remainder of the season. And he's got a lot of upside. He's obviously a very like tantalizing prospect that has the type of profile that breaks out over the second half of the year. But I don't think, regardless of the personnel for Chicago, I can move him higher than the shaky flex tier. DJ Moore playing, DJ Moore not playing, unfortunately. Rashid Shaheed, another strong player here. We know what he is. I mean, he's the epitome of boomer bust, and more often than not this year, he's been very, very busty. Last week, 28 yards. The week before, $114 and a touchdown. But then, the 4 weeks prior, 47, 42, 52, 33. So he's not putting up yardage totals unless he busts a really big one. Pause, resume. So I'd rather not have him in my lineup if I don't have to have him there. Philadelphia at Minnesota. We have not had a quarterback announcement yet for the Minnesota side of things. As it relates to Philadelphia, Quinyon Mitchell was limited, so he very well might return to practice. Jalen Carter looks like he will be back. The Vikings will be getting much needed help back on the offensive line. Brian O'Neill was limited. Donovan Jackson was limited. So it looks like most of the players on both of these teams will, for the most part, be at full strength. If Quinyon Mitchell misses, this could be a massive blowout game for Jefferson. Regardless, he's looked really good over the last month, so we're not going to overthink that one. The matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings, not a great one here. A lot of red across the board there. They are dead last in terms of fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. They are dead last in EPA per pass allowed to opponents. They have allowed the 5th fewest overall points per game to opponents here. So A.J. Brown, always liable to be A.J. Brown. But that being said, I mean, the Vikings are coming off of a bye. I think they'll have a pretty damn good game plan with Brian Flores there. So Brown's going to be a dub flex for me. And I don't think I can rank him much higher. Like, yeah, my rankings are live on the site right now, and I have him at wide receiver 25 right now. So that tells you about where I'm at with A.J. Brown right now. And you sprinkle in the matchup here, and I don't love what I'm expecting from him this week. And, as I said, the rankings are on BDGE.co, very mobile friendly. Quite beautiful, if I might say so myself. You can get them by becoming a Big Dog member on BDGE.co. You can get the Big Dog membership for free for the next 3 months. If you go to our partner app, MGM, either the website or their app, if you deposit $10 as a first-time depositor with code BDGE, play any slip on there. Like I told you, I'm going to hit Rice. You can go play any slip that I take on Pickett app. As soon as you place that slip, they are going to hit you with a promo code to use on our site for the Big Dog membership for free for the next 3 months. If you're saying, hey, the football season ends in 3 months, we also got dynasty rankings and stuff that continues into the offseason as well. So very, very cheap way to get it. $10 for the next 3 months. Go do that. MGM, link down below. Devonta Smith, I mean, listen, if I got AJ Brown at dub flex, I don't feel great about Devonta Smith. I honestly think they probably have very, very similar outlooks at this point, where it's just kind of like Brown will probably get more targets. Devonta Smith is more likely to just break a big play. I'm going to put him into the shaky flex. He'll be at the top of the tier because I still think Devonta Smith is awesome. You know, you guys have watched football this year, though. The Eagles have not looked awesome. Outside of Justin Jefferson, we've got Jordan Addison underneath him. His yardage line at 39.5 is not great. He's looked good since he's came back, but I still think there's a little bit of shakiness to the Minnesota passing offense right now. Just the unknown of who's going to play quarterback, if it's McCarthy. Even though McCarthy and Addison feel like they have pretty good chemistry together. Overall, if I'm comparing the players here, like Olave versus the Bears, Diggs versus the Titans, stuff like that, I'm looking at Addison more in the shaky flex tier than I am in the dub flex tier and putting him much higher on that list. So we're going to move to Indy at the Chargers here. The Chargers are 1.5 point favorites at home. 48.5 point total. I think the biggest call outs on the injury report are, again, Joe Alt with another DNP. So it's lining up for him. Unlikely to suit up for this one. Josh Downs actually entered the concussion protocol, I believe, on Wednesday, which does not bode well for him playing this week. Midweek is really, really hard to clear from. So I would expect him not to be active. Ashton Doolin, DNP, probably not going to be active there. Trey Pipkins, another offensive lineman for the Chargers who's going to miss. So they're going to be down their, three of their starting offensive linemen likely again. And this one, Charvarius Ward suffered that pregame concussion last week. Their top cornerback is likely going to be out again. It is his second concussion of the year. So that's not great for us, but we do have some good news. Quentin Johnson limited again. He was limited all last week. I think he was really close to playing. So if I had to guess, I would lean towards Quentin Johnson being active for this game, which is great because it's a really good matchup. Kenny Moore, though, backup practice. That would be a major upgrade to the Colts secondary because they've been without him for the last few weeks. And now without Charvarius Ward, they badly need Kenny Moore back. So not a guarantee that he plays, but him starting off the week with a limited practice is at least trending in the right direction here. Now, if Quentin Johnson is back playing, now we got to make more out of this mess of, Ladd McConkey had the big game last week with Quentin Johnson out. I still am operating under the assumption, Quentin Johnson missed one game, but I still think he's the guy in this passing room that I want. So assuming he plays, I'm going to feel good about him in my lineup. Ladd looked good, broke a big play. I'm going to throw him into the dub flex and definitely towards the top of it, but I'm still looking at it in that sort of light. If Quentin Johnson doesn't play, then obviously Ladd's going to move up another tier and goes into the feels good, if not even close to the must start category. Keenan Allen's an interesting one. He's actually been kind of taking a hit in his snaps. One, he hasn't really produced much in the last couple of weeks. He's also seeing fewer than 65% of the snaps in this offense. So I don't know if it's a philosophy change based on, needing to use more two tight ends because they've got to block more on the offensive line, whatever it is. Regardless, he's just not really producing at a high level. Of course, he's always, liable to go 6 for 70 and a touchdown, which could definitely happen against the Colts, but I think he's probably closer to the shaky flex tier for me. Definitely at the top of it. Like I would never play a Whittington or a Coker or a Hollywood Brown over Keenan Allen just based on the offense and all that kind of stuff. And the over-under in this game is really, really high at 48.5. So I feel good about the game environment. But Keenan Allen, I do think there's some pause for concern based on how the last few games have rolled out. The Chargers on the other side of the ball have a much, much better pass defense than the run defense. They literally can't stop a fucking thing on the ground, but they are very, very good against the pass. They have some really underrated cornerbacks, good safety play. If Josh Downs is out, though, Michael Pittman might get a zillion targets. So despite a really disappointing game last week, I feel good about him. Adonai Mitchell would probably play a little bit, but listen, it's Michael Pittman and it is Tyler Warren, and you're not putting anybody else into your lineup. Next game, we've got the Giants at Denver moving into the 4 p.m. slate, a 39.5 point total. That is disgusting. They're at Denver. They're only 7-point favorites here, which is maybe not surprising based on the way that Jackson Dart has been playing. Cortland Sutton, had a bad game, but he's going right into the feels good category. Again, I think he was just shadowed by Sauce Gardner the entirety of the game. The Giants just do not have a shutdown type of man v man cornerback that scares me from Cortland Sutton. So he's going back into the feels good category. I think Wandell, he's just good. He's just a good player and a good target for Jackson Dart. The matchup is impossibly difficult against Denver. They don't fucking allow anything, man. So Wandell Robinson, I just think the way that this offense is set up, and with Darius Slayton probably trending towards missing another game with the hamstring strain. He's just on the border of the dub flex and the shaky flex for me. So you guys can kind of figure that out for yourself. I'll throw him in just because of the matchup. I'll throw him into the shaky flex, but I definitely towards the top of the tier. And I think, you can make the argument for any of these guys up here. Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Devonta Smith being right at the bottom of the dub flex. Again, my actual rankings will have these guys in order of where I rank them. But any passing game against Denver is just a pause. Behind Courtland Sutton, I think you could do worse than Troy Franklin. He's getting some layup targets, and this is a good matchup against the Giants secondary here. So I think I'd rather not, but he gets on the board. Put him on the board. Green Bay at Arizona. What do we got from the practice report? Nothing crazy here. Zay Jones with the DNP. Green Bay's got some heavy hitters on the practice report, though. Zach Tom, DNP. Lucas Van Ness, DNP. Devontae Wyatt, DNP. So definitely names to keep an eye on. Maybe a slight downgrade for the Packers overall. But we do have to figure out what's going on with the quarterback situation. I believe Kyler returned to a limited practice yesterday, which is good news for pretty much nobody, actually. But yeah, he's limited, and it looks like he is trending towards playing. Definitely not a guarantee. I think Marv is a dub flex. I actually probably like him a little bit more. Assuming he clears concussion protocol, I would put that at a 50-50. If he doesn't, I'm not really looking to start anybody in the Arizona Cardinals passing game. Zay Jones is a DNP. He was like kind of interesting. Michael Wilson, you can make the case as a shaky flex if Marvin Harrison Jr. misses this game. On the flip side, with Jaden Reed still out, I believe Christian Watson is still probably a few weeks away from getting back onto the field. Dontavian Wicks was limited on Wednesday, so it does point towards him getting back onto the field. I would say I felt pretty good. If Wicks was out and it was just condensed to Golden and Romeo Doubs, I'd feel better about these guys. But I think for the time being, like the Cardinals defense I think they're a pretty good pass defense. Will Johnson has really turned on. Like they just have a lot of good defensive personnel players. So in terms of like deciding who's actually going to be the guy that breaks out or has the big game in this receiving core, like I don't feel super strong about any of these guys. So I would put Romeo Doubs and Golden, definitely flex worthy, but I don't feel overly optimistic about being able to choose one or the other. Like Golden had a relatively big game last week, but he only caught like 3 balls, and I don't think he saw his like snap percentage spike whatsoever. So I don't feel like we saw like a real post-buy rookie bump. I like him over the second half of the year, but that being said, Watson's going to get back into the lineup. Jaden Reed will get back into the lineup. So long term, I still think this is just a very, very messy receiver situation that on a week-to-week basis, very difficult to decipher who's probably going to get, who's going to play the hits. Washington at Dallas here. A lot of stuff still up in the air in this one for show. CeeDee Lamb did return to practice. They said that he is trending towards playing. I still have my hesitations on labeling CeeDee Lamb a guy that is playing this week. I don't think it's guaranteed, but obviously if CeeDee Lamb is playing, he's in your lineup as a must start. I honestly also think that George Pickens has done enough that like him and Dak have developed this chemistry where, maybe you want to put him in the feels good category, but there's not a world where you're sitting George Pickens. So in this matchup against the Washington secondary, I think both of them go into the must start. Obviously, if CeeDee Lamb's out, George Pickens sees a massive boost. On the flip side, it does sound like Terry McLaurin will finally return, and you could see a lot of green in this matchup. The Dallas Cowboys defense, run defense, pass defense, whatever. You can get whatever you want against this defense. They're like a fucking vending machine right now. So Deebo Samuel coming off of a down week. I mean, this is the matchup we've been waiting for. So Deebo's going to go into the feels good category. This is with assuming that Terry plays. So in that case, I mean, Terry's missed a decent amount of time. I still think he gets out there and runs all the routes. Like they need wide receiver production. So he's going to go into the dub flex category for me. I wouldn't put him at the very, very top. It's hard not to, based on the fact that they're playing against Dallas. This is a division game, and he wants to be out there for it. But I think he belongs in this tier, right? If this was a game against, I don't know, like the Chargers or the Eagles or the Jaguars or something like that, I'd probably put him closer to the shaky flex here just based on matchup. But like you could not ask for a better matchup in return right now. I know Terry McLaurin has been extremely untrustworthy for everybody out there that drafted him, but right now I feel relatively good about having him in my flex with this matchup on deck. Sunday Night Football, we've got Atlanta at San Francisco here. Drake London's going to go right into the must-start tier. I do believe Darnell Mooney returned to a limited practice on Wednesday, so he is trending in the right direction. Not a guarantee that he plays, but it does feel like he is trying to suit up for this one. So I don't expect 20 more targets for Drake London. That being said, I think it would be pretty fucking dumb to start Darnell Mooney. He's going to be at the very bottom of the shaky flex tier. On the flip side, still so many moving parts for San Francisco, so I apologize. I'm probably not going to be able to give you an accurate depiction of San Fran. Right now, we don't know who the quarterback is. Brock Purdy did return to a limited practice yesterday, so there's a chance that he ends up playing versus the Falcons. As you could see, the Falcons are kind of goated on defense now. We all saw the Monday Night Football game. We just nailed our rookie picks. Like, our NFL draft this year was super heavy on the defensive side of the ball, and we hit it out of the park. And we've invested a lot into our defense over the last couple of years in the drafts, and they like really didn't do much as rookies and sometimes second-year players, and now they're kind of all hitting their stride at the same time, and you're seeing this Falcons defense kind of just like come together as one. So I think the Falcons defense is probably not as good as they looked on Monday night, but very much not a pushover defense anymore. We don't know who the quarterback is. Brock Purdy, this is exactly the same timeline as last week or last time with the toe. He had the toe injury, missed 2 weeks, came back to a limited practice, played, re-injured the toe. It feels like that same shit's going to fucking happen again. So I almost feel like they might lean in the direction of not playing him again, but I don't know. What makes this tough is both of these quarterbacks feel like they have their guys, you know? Like if Mac Jones is under center, I feel great about Kendrick Bourne. If Brock Purdy's under center, it's not even like I feel great about Juwan Jennings because he's literally like a dead person on the field right now. But I feel less good about Kendrick Bourne. And George Kittle looks like he is close to, if not definitely returning this week, which muddies the water even more. I think each week that passes by, Juwan Jennings will get a little bit healthier. He's going to go to the bottom of the shaky flex tier for me. Like I definitely would prefer not having him in my lineup this week, but I also think the fact that he played the full game last week, he ran the most routes of any wide receiver on the Niners. He got into it with Kyle Shanahan and the offensive coordinator on the sideline, probably for the fact that he's like, I'm out here busting my fucking ass with broken bones all over my body and you're not feeding me the ball. Tells me that, you know, he might get some targets next week. And him and Purdy have a great chemistry. So I wouldn't be surprised if Juwan got out there and caught, 4 to 5 passes in this upcoming week. But again, I'd prefer not to go that direction. If George Kittle doesn't play and Mac Jones plays, I mean, I think you have to have Kendrick Bourne in your lineup based on how good he's been. But there's so many moving parts right now, and I don't really know how to decipher it to be useful for you guys. I think ultimately, if I'm projecting out what's going to happen, I think George Kittle ends up playing. I think Juwan Jennings plays. Kendrick Bourne plays. I don't know what to make of the quarterback situation. I'd go 51-49 in favor of Mac Jones. I'm filming this at like 9:30 a.m., so we don't actually have any like reports or anything about it. I would lean Mac Jones, which obviously leans itself more towards Kendrick Bourne for sure. So I'll throw him with the assumption that Mac Jones is playing at the bottom of the dub flex category. But I do think having George Kittle back does hurt almost all the pass catchers here. Ricky Pearsall, we didn't even bring him up, but I don't think he's going to play in this one. So a lot to decipher there. Obviously a fucking mess, but all my rankings will be updated in the Big Dog membership. As always, we move to Tampa Bay at Detroit here. Practice reports all over the fucking place because we don't actually have them because they're a Monday night game. I forgot. Amon-Ra is a must start for me. This is going to be an extremely high total game, 52.5 point total. Detroit 5.5 point favorites here. The way I see this playing out, I think Mike Evans is probably going to try to fight and get back for this game. Will he be 100%? I don't know, but I do think you could throw him into the dub flex category for the fact that Ibuka is out and Godwin's going to be out. Bucky is out right now. So Mike Evans, if he's playing, he's definitely going to be in my lineup because of lack of target competition. On the flip side, I mean, Jameson Williams, do I feel great about him? I don't feel like they're scheming up enough for him, honestly, for me to feel like super validated about putting him into the dub flex category. So he's going to be at the top, near the top-ish of the shaky flex. Like, I'm definitely mulling over sit starts between Jameson, Jordan Addison, Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, they're the same type of tier guys for me. I think Sterling Shepard is worthy of being in the shaky flex tier. I think Tez Johnson is worthy of being in the shaky flex tier as well. He can pop off. If Mike Evans doesn't play, neither of these guys move up to dub flexes for me, but I feel a little bit better about them, and they will move up in the rankings. Shepard's a floor guy. Tez Johnson, I think, is a ceiling guy that I could definitely see have a good game against his Detroit Lions secondary, which I didn't even bring up. Again, they're going to be without Terrion Arnold. They're going to be without DJ Reed. Brian Branch's suspension got upheld yesterday, so he's going to be out for this one. Kirby Joseph, we don't have practice reports yet, but his knee was pretty fucked up last week, so there's a chance they're without at least 3 of their top 4 secondary players, possibly their top 4 secondary players. So, like, this is a pass defense that should be feasted on by Baker Mayfield. So I could see a lot of shots downfield, which is why I kind of do like a dude like Tez Johnson. Detroit also really good against the run. So I'd imagine they're going to have a tough time. Rashad White, getting traction up the middle. Does seem like Aleem McNeil, their awesome defensive tackle, hasn't played yet this year, is trending towards making his return, which is another big upgrade for the interior of the defensive line there. So should be a very, very pass-heavy game script for Tampa Bay. Last game of the evening, 10 p.m. Eastern time, is just fucking diabolical. Houston at Seattle. Seattle 3-point favorites in this one. JSN, of course, is a must start. Nico Collins is going to be a must start for me as well, coming off of the bye here. We'll see just how high up the ranks he goes, as well as the Houston pass catchers here, based on the Seattle secondary. They were without Witherspoon last week. They were without Julian Love last week. They were without Tariq Woolen last week. I think all of them have a chance of playing in this upcoming week, so we'll just have to keep an eye on practice reports as we get closer to Monday. But luckily, these guys are just going to go into your lineup, no doubt about it. Cooper Kupp, I think, is a shaky flex who has played a little bit better than I expected him to. Don't really want to start anybody else in this game. Like, I think if all the Seattle secondary players miss again, I think like Kirk and Higgins could be in the argument for being shaky flex plays, but they're all guys I just like rather not play at this point. So they're at the bottom of this tier, and that's how I'm looking at the wide receivers right now. These videos are tough to make when there's not a lot of teams on bye. Week 8 is going to be a movie, though, when we got fucking 6 teams. Shit. All right, well, I need water because my throat on fire right now. That is every wide receiver for week 7. I hope this was helpful. Start them if you got them. Sit them if you don't. Let's go into poster mode for you. There is just no way y'all are going to be able to see this at once. If you want all of the rankings, as always, you could just get them at bdge.co. $10 for the next 3 months. It's easily the most helpful way to support our brand as well. Go to MGM if you're in a qualifying state. MGM app, MGM website. Deposit $10 using code BDGE when you do so. Play any slip on there as a first timer. You can follow the Pickett app, of course. Again, you can follow my profile. I'm at Nick Ercolano on there. You can see any slips that I make on the Pickett app. Tail one of those, ride with me, die with me. Big Dog membership promo code in your inbox once you do so. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Subscribe to the channel if you want the same video next week and for the remainder of the weeks. Yesterday was the running back version of it. Go check that out if you missed it. Love y'all. Smoochies.